What's going on, ProGuides fam? I'm Kangas, and I'll admit it, while I've been a denier for months now, it's finally time to come out and say, the Phantom is better than the Vandal. Now I understand I may have upset a few of you watching, as I too was upset to admit it, but over the past few weeks, some of the biggest pro Vandals have even switched over to the Phantom. So I think it's safe to say that the war for the best rifle has been won. But why exactly is that? Well, hit that sub button and let's take a look at maybe why you should switch too. So let's go over what we've already known. The consensus has been that Phantoms were better at close range and easier to control, while Vandals are for precise, long-range gunplay. Although there hasn't been any balancing of the gun since episode 1, the recent switches seem to indicate the conclusion of this big discussion of when you want to use the Phantom over the Vandal. Let's be honest, everyone's already kind of agreed that on paper, the Phantom is probably the better gun. It has better spray control, fire rate, recovery, damage per second, and also a bigger clip. However, there have always been Vandal enthusiasts like TSM Sub Rosa, and that Randall one-tapping you in ranked games that make you think, maybe the Vandal is better. If not better, it at least has the potential to be the best gun once pros start to master it. Well, now that even Sub Rosa has started to mainly use the Phantom on stream and in his pro matches, and even the Game God Tens himself has tweeted about his broken relationship with the Vandal, it's looking bad. Seems to us like the long-range one-tap machine is falling out of style, and probably for good reason too. But of course, what do y'all think? After the video, let me know in the comments below which one you still think is better. But we can all agree that whether it's the Vandal or the Phantom, you need to learn how to master at least one of these in order to get really good at the game. So if you're still struggling to learn either of them, go check out our website and talk with one of our coaches. They can do VOD reviews with you and go over your gameplay, or even play in games with you and give you lots of useful tips. So with that out of the way, let's talk about how the Vandal can be impractical for many situations. First of all, the Vandal has a rougher spray pattern. Because its recoil is hard to control, you often can't rely on the Vandal to get spray control kills at mid to long range. This means that in a lot of fights, you have to play around using small bursts and repositioning or taking longer range duels where the Vandal has a more substantial range advantage. Not only that though, the high gun recovery time makes the Vandal much harder to handle, since you have to wait longer for the recoil to reset after every burst. In Valorant, where you have to shoot enemy abilities like Reyna flashes, Sova drones, Killjoy turrets, and Sky's whole ability set, those precious moments could be the difference between recovering for the fight or having to spray and pray. The slower rate of fire makes the Vandal feel clunkier, which makes missing the first shot way more punishing than with the Phantom. Additionally, the Vandal has a weaker damage per second, so it's not as fast at breaking walls or destructible objectives as the Phantom would. All these factors make the Vandal much less efficient in a fast-paced scenario where flashes are coming in and enemies are swinging you around a corner. Pro play is filled with these situations, and anything less than the best weapon to tackle these just makes it harder to perform. Not to mention the Vandal and Phantom both would one-shot headshots in these situations, so Vandal is just strictly worse than the Phantom for these scenarios. So let's consider how the Phantom's strengths over the Vandal would help in these situations. Well, first off, the Phantom has an easier spray pattern with much less spread, which means you can rely on the spray a lot more to get kills at close to mid-range. This allows for more freedom in choosing your fights. It also gives you a better chance of hitting a spray down on enemies peeking you. Even at a long range, you can choose to do small bursts and have a much higher accuracy when taking these duels. This gives you more versatility in how you take the duel to begin with. The faster gun recovery also makes the bursts easier to recover from, which means that you can take faster duels and re-peek or reset your recoil faster. Abilities that need to be shot can also be broken faster, and paired with the Phantom's faster fire rate and damage per second, you have a much better chance of resetting by the time the enemies are peeking you. All these factors together make it much easier to deal with fast-paced situations that really test your abilities, especially for you duelists out there. Any bit of leeway as you clear a whole bomb site makes it easier for you to focus on the frags instead of getting bogged down by your gun's limitations. In any case, the only real weakness of the Phantom is that it doesn't one-shot headshot past 15 meters. In my opinion, the faster fire rate and better accuracy plus spray control more than compensate for that shortcoming though. But this isn't the only reason, as this point of contention has always been why some people like the Vandal more than the Phantom. So let's figure out why this might not be as bad as it sounds. Well, to start, I think one of the biggest factors that make this not as negative is the types of fights where the Vandal shines over the Phantom are just too inconsistent to make a large impact. In pro games, it's not really much about taking super long-range fights because everyone's aim is godly. In most cases, the pros are just better at taking regular fights and let the operator take those long-range battles. So most fights are still close-range duels that revolve around fast-paced gunplay and positions where the Phantom is capable of one-shot headshotting anyway. Another thing that makes one-shot headshots not as important is that if you can hit the headshot with the Phantom, the aim punch will often be enough to make your opponents miss their shot. So assuming that you hit that first headshot, the other player should be at a heavy disadvantage because their aim's already knocked up. That means that you shouldn't have to worry too much about the Vandal beating you if you hit your headshot first. There's also no downside, since if the Vandal hit you in the head first, you lost anyway. So it wouldn't really matter if you had a Vandal or a Phantom, or even an AWP. Considering how the Phantom has a better recoil, recovery, and fire rate, mid-range and long-range fights could very well be easier for Phantoms as well, since it's much less punishing to miss than the Vandal. If you miss the first shot, it's way easier to recover and hit the next shots on the head or body. But with the Vandal, if the first shot isn't the head, it's going to be really hard to control the spray well enough to actually hit the body, much less another headshot. I mean, yeah, you can argue that you don't deal with this if you hit the first shot, but hey, even pros can't hit every first shot consistently. So unless you're better than the pros, you're still running into these situations. And one of the smaller details of why the Phantom slightly edges out the Vandal is one of the more obvious ones also. It always sucks when you spam a smoke only to get spammed back immediately because the enemy can see your tracers. As you go higher in the ranks, players will just get better and better at pinpointing your location off any information that you give them, so it's always better to conceal your exact position as well as possible. Additionally, you would expect the Vandal to have higher bullet penetration due to its damage and range advantage, but the Phantom actually has the same level of bullet penetration, which makes it just as powerful when trying to spam that wall to catch the Sova-darted enemy. If anything, the fire rates and recoil only make it easier at mid to long range, while at close range, there's just no downsides. In general, the Phantom is just more versatile and often a better option. One of its key selling points is that all of its benefits just make the gun simpler and much less punishing to miss with than the Vandal. As such, the Phantom is not only a better gun in almost all situations, but it's also the easier gun to use. So who wouldn't want to use the easier gun that just consistently outperforms the harder gun? Well, the Phantom provides players with a much more versatile and mistake-friendly option, while only losing the ability to one-shot headshots at mid to long range. But like I said, we already covered why that doesn't matter as much as you'd think. So I was on the Vandal train for a long time, but I don't know about you, if aim gods like Tens and Sub Rosa are finally using the Phantom, then I guess I should too. Not only will it make my life easier when I'm trying to hold that rush, but it's also good to know that the best mechanical players also agree the Phantom is better than the Vandal despite those one-shot headshots. But if you still want to use the Vandal, I mean, just go for it. Sometimes it's just more satisfying to hit that headshot when it instantly kills. And if you can work through the shortcomings of the Vandal, then it's still a powerful gun that can hold its own against a Phantom. However, if you're trying to squeeze every last bit of possible efficiency out of your decision in gameplay, then the Phantom is probably for you. So to all you Vandal lovers out there, did I convince you? Well, if not, I hope we can still make this work, because I'd hate to lose what we had over something like this. But for you Phantom lovers out there, oh baby, don't forget to thumbs up the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell to keep up to date with all the latest Valorant news and guides. That's it for today, so best of luck on the grind, everyone, and I'll see you next time.